Daniel tightened the last screw on the baby crib, the mobile above it spinning gently in the afternoon sun. The nursery smelled of fresh paint and unopened packages. Hope, he thought. His hands lingered on the soft plush giraffe by the window. They'd talked about names last night. Emma, if it was a girl. Lisa had smiled, touching her stomach like a secret only she could hear. He didn't see the hesitation in her eyes. Didn't notice the way her fingers tensed before curling into his. In this moment, Daniel only saw the future, glowing, certain, and soft. Lisa's hand didn't tremble as she applied her lipstick, a color Daniel used to call dangerous. The shade matched her expression now, unreadable, final. In the hallway, he watched her without her knowing, smiling at her reflection like he was seeing love. She was quiet that morning, said the baby kicked too much for her to sleep. He offered her tea. She nodded. When she turned to kiss him, her lips felt staged, like the last line of a play she no longer cared to perform. He mistook her silence for tenderness, mistook her stillness for peace. The red dress slid into the suitcase like it belonged there, folded with precision, reverence, finality. Next to it lay her medical file, untouched prenatal vitamins, and a one-way train ticket marked for Sunday. Lisa moved quietly, every motion memorized, as if she'd packed this same bag in her head 100 times. Downstairs, Daniel sang while making breakfast, his voice full of life. She paused. For a moment, her hands trembled, but only for a moment. She zipped the suitcase closed, not just on clothes, but on the life she never planned to keep. Daniel stood in the nursery doorway, the roller still wet with pale yellow paint. The wall was half done, a mural of a mother and child cradled in a field of clouds. It had been Lisa's idea, but she was late coming home, again. Outside, rain streaked the window in long trails, and the mobile above the crib spun slowly in the draft. He remembered her laughter in this room, how she'd leaned into him saying, "It's starting to feel real." Now all he felt was distance, growing like mold behind the drywall. Lisa stared at the message on her screen, the one she never answered. The man's name was saved only as S. She could still feel the ghost of his fingertips on her wrist from 2 weeks ago. Her hands clutched the steering wheel, knuckles white. Behind her, their house glowed like a trap. She was supposed to go in, kiss Daniel, tell him about the doctor's visit that never happened. Instead, she kept scrolling through old texts, words like soon and just wait. The car hummed, engine off, as if daring her to never open the door again. The pasta was her favorite, lemon, butter, and thyme. Daniel even folded the napkins the way she liked, little peaks like mountains. The candles sputtered in their holders. The clock ticked louder than it should. He checked his phone again. No messages. The red wine in her glass stayed full. He told himself maybe she got caught at work. The merger, the stress. But 9:46 ticked past. Something heavier settled in his chest. Not fear. Not sadness. A flicker of knowing. The kind of silence that felt like someone choosing not to speak, on purpose. Daniel sat cross-legged on the nursery floor, the tiny sock hanging from his fingers like a question with no answer. The lamp gave off a weak, orange glow, casting long shadows that bent around the empty crib. He couldn't sleep, not without hearing her voice, her laugh, her footsteps upstairs. He whispered to himself, counting weeks, counting promises. Lisa had said the doctor confirmed everything was progressing fine. He hadn't been allowed in hospital rules, she'd said. Now, doubt crept in like a drop. Cold, unseen, but undeniable. And still, he waited. Because hope doesn't vanish all at once. It rots in pieces. Lisa didn't look back. The train station buzzed with announcements, flickering lights, and the hollow sound of rolling wheels. Her red dress peeked from beneath the coat, a flash of decision in a color that screamed everything she couldn't say. In her mind, she rehearsed her exit like a monologue. It wasn't you, it was me. I never wanted this. I just thought I should. But none of those lines mattered now. She had 15 minutes before departure. 15 minutes before she ceased being anyone's wife. And still, her phone buzzed in her pocket, again and again, his name lighting the screen like a curse. The bathroom smelled of citrus and betrayal. Daniel's hands trembled as he pulled tissues, receipts, and wrappers from the wastebasket until he found it. A crumpled ultrasound photo, black and white and blank. No name. No date. Just a blurry shape floating in static. His breath caught in his throat. Why would she throw this away? Or had she ever meant to keep it at all? In the mirror, his face looked hollow, skin pulled too tight over disbelief. He suddenly remembered the unopened vitamins, the appointments he never attended. The truth hit like a fall, not loud, but final. Rain lashed Daniel's face as he pounded on the window of her locked car. Inside, the suitcase mocked him from the passenger seat, zipped shut, spotless, final. He didn't know where she'd gone, only that she hadn't taken her phone. Her closet was half empty. The red dress was gone. The driveway pooled with muddy water beneath his shoes, and still he stayed, screaming her name into the storm. The porch light flickered above him, casting wild shadows. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, but Daniel wasn't ashamed. He was unraveling, and everyone deserved to see it. Lisa stood in the center of the hotel room, bare feet on patterned carpet, red dress clinging to her like a confession. She stared at the mirror without really seeing. The wine glass in her hand tilted slightly, red liquid swaying but untouched. No music, no TV, no distractions. Just silence. She imagined Daniel's face when he found the closet half empty, when he realized the vitamins were never opened, when he understood she was never pregnant. The worst part, she didn't feel free. She felt absent, like she'd stepped out of herself and left the body behind, wearing the lie like a costume. Daniel crumpled beside the crib, fists clutching the spinning mobile like he could stop the world from turning. It rattled above him, mocking him with soft melodies and plastic stars. The unopened baby gifts surrounded him like tombstones, pastel wrapping, cheerful ribbons. None of it real. Not anymore. His sobs came in gasps, mouth open but no sound escaping, just grief. The kind that burns low and cruel. He pressed his face into the sheets, inhaling her scent, trying to hold on to anything. But the scent was fading, and so was everything else. Daniel sat at the kitchen table in total darkness, save for the hum of the refrigerator and the cold blue light it cast across his knees. In his lap rested the baby name book, its pages dog-eared and marked with yellow tabs. Emma, Hannah, Sophie. His fingers traced the names like they were tombstones. He hadn't turned on the lights since yesterday. Not since he called her parents and they said, "She'll reach out when she's ready." That was worse than a goodbye. It meant she wasn't coming back, not even to explain. Just gone. And he was still here, waiting in a house built on lies. Lisa watched the sky shift from gray to pink without blinking. Her red dress hung off one shoulder, creased and tired like she was. The balcony railing felt cold under her arms. A cigarette, half burned, dangled forgotten between her fingers. She hadn't slept, hadn't even moved. Her phone was powered off in her purse, along with her wedding ring and the keys to the house. Every version of her that had existed in that suburban prison, the wife, the mother-to-be, the liar, had dissolved with the night. And yet the guilt didn't leave. It lingered, sticky and sharp, with every blink of morning light. Target was too bright. The baby aisle gleamed with cheery plastics and pastel colors, every item promising love, comfort, family. Daniel walked slowly, fingers trailing the edge of a shelf, stacked with pacifiers he no longer needed. He should have turned back. But something in him needed to see it one last time, to feel the weight of what never was. A woman smiled politely as she passed with a toddler. He smiled back, out of habit, out of pain. This aisle was once the beginning. Now, it was a tomb, neat, sterile, filled with ghosts only he could see. Snow fell in slow spirals outside the nursery window, muffling the world in silence. Daniel stood still, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the flakes dancing through pale air. Behind him, the crib waited in vain. And in the open closet, a red dress, returned but never explained, hanging like a ghost of her. She'd come back once briefly, left no note. Just the dress. He hadn't seen her, just the echo of her choice. The air smelled of dust and lavender and finality. Time didn't move in here. It waited, just like him. Lisa didn't speak for the first 20 minutes. The therapist wrote nothing. No questions, no small talk. Just silence. The red dress sat folded beside her like a warning. Too loud for this beige room, too honest. Her arms were crossed, eyes distant. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked like a window under pressure. I told him what he needed to hear. I thought it would help. I thought maybe I'd believe it too. The therapist nodded, slow and quiet. Lisa didn't cry. She didn't confess. She just stared at the floor, as if something was still coming, something she hadn't outrun. The nursery was empty now. Cribs old, tall, walls repainted. Only the giraffe remained, slumped in the corner like it knew what never came. The mobile above twirled once, slowly, then stilled. Daniel hadn't stepped foot in here for weeks, but today he opened the door and didn't flinch. The silence greeted him like an old friend, familiar and final. No more hope, no more lies, just space.